words. Now, the Bible talks about how the tongue can be destructive, and it's worth just noting what the Psalms and Proverbs say. It talks about a flattering tongue. It talks about a proud tongue. It talks about a lying tongue. How many times have we been lied to? It talks about a deceitful tongue and a perverted tongue. It talks about a destructive tongue, a mischievous and wicked tongue, and a backbiting tongue. And I've said before, you don't have to look too far on the soap operas on your television to realize there's a lot of that going on. And does that reflect life, or does that, I'm not going to go into that again. Anyway, like a nuclear power, there's two ways in which you can use it for good and for evil. Nuclear power can be used to light our cities, which is a good thing. But nuclear power can also be used to destroy our cities. It's not that the nuclear power is wrong, it's the use of it, and God has given us a tongue to either build up or to destroy through our words. Because Proverbs also talks about a soothing tongue and a healing tongue, and we can know those too. Now, the first picture that James uses here is about a horse. Who likes horses? You like horses? Yeah, there's a few. I know Penny does. Yeah, there's a few others that like. Right. I remember when I was about 6, and I went to, I think it was Filey. Anybody been to Filey? Went to the Christian holiday camp. It was really a kind of, morning campers type thing, but it was Christians. So we all had grace, and we all did what we were told. Went to Filey, went down to the beach. Now, we didn't have donkeys on the beach like you do in some places. They had horses. And I said, Dad, can I go on a horse? Can I go on a horse? And I remember it well. He said, all right, son. And lifted me up onto this huge, monstrous horse. It seemed very big, but I think I was very small. I was so small, my legs were so short that they couldn't even get into, what are they called? That's the one. Just looking at Penny there, just testing her. Wouldn't even go in the stirrups. And so when this thing started to canter, I was fine, I was just hanging on. But then it started to gallop. And it was galloping, and all I can remember is being bounced up and down on the back of this horse thinking, I'm going to come off. I couldn't hold on. I was absolutely terrified, and I've never been on a horse since. But I was so small, and the thing was that with the horse, they told me, all I had to do was just kind of pull the reins, and the horse would have been under my control. But I never realized that. And that's what we need to understand with, again, our tongues and this illustration, that we can reel it in. We don't have to obey it. It doesn't have to disengage from our brain. We can control what we say. So we can, if we really think about it, be careful about the words that we use. The second illustration was about ships. Now, some of you may be on cruises, but the SS France is the biggest ship. It's 316 meters long. That's 1,036 feet. That's big. And it weighs 76,000 ton. And the rudder is 74 ton. Now, that sounds big. But actually, in comparison to its weight, it's only 0.1% of the ship's weight. And yet this huge ship is controlled by what is relatively small rudder. And again, we can control this little thing called a tongue if we really think about it. And how we use it can change our direction. It can change also the direction of others. So we need to understand that. Now, the third illustration was a fire or a spark. One of the largest forest fires was in Australia, and it burned down 12 million acres, and 1 million sheep were caught up in it and were killed. Fire can be destructive. But I don't want to dwell on that, as I said. I want to dwell on the fact that, yes, your tongue can be like a spark, but it can actually light people's lives for good through encouragement. We got to understand that there is power in words. I was reading about a school teacher, he was a head teacher, and he was talking about his youth and how he was a very shy student, like I was. Believe it or not. Shy, sitting at the back of the class, never answering any questions because I always felt embarrassed. And he was talking about one particular day that changed his life. when the teacher asked a question, and he knew that he knew the answer. So he actually put his hand up for the first time ever. And Mrs. Jordan, who was the teacher, called him forward to ask him to answer it in front of her whole class. And as she stood there looking all kind of authoritative, and him looking all very scared, and she said to him, "What is the answer to the question?" And he gave it. She twirled around at him and said, "You are right." And he said that was the moment that changed his life, because suddenly he received some affirmation and a confirmation that he was right. He received significance in front of his peers. He said from that moment on, instead of being nervous, shy, reserved in the back of the class, he suddenly became someone that the other classmates looked up to. He was right. He was not acknowledged as right. And from that moment on, he then determined that one day he would be a teacher, and he ended up being a head teacher. And it's incredible that little moments in our lives, perhaps we can trace back to when someone said something positive over us. You could maybe be able to think even now of when you were younger, or even more recent, when someone said something positive into your life that changed the way that you think and changed perhaps the course of your journey of your life. You see, relationships and things can actually be maximized by words or sterilized by words. Self-esteem can be enhanced or depreciated by words. Love can be created or hatred stirred up by words. Destiny can be built or destroyed by words. Words are an instrument given to us by God to bring hope into this world, and He entrusts us with the right words. Words can live beyond us. Perhaps you can think of words spoken over you of people who have now passed on to glory. And you can think of those words that they said, they still live with you. We think of Martin Luther King Jr. I have a dream. His words live on way beyond his life and were significant in the course and changing the course of history. We can think how powerful words are for blessing, for edifying, for encouraging, for affirming. We need to choose our words wisely. We need to ask God for wisdom in the words that we use. We can plant seeds of hope into people's lives through our words. We can encourage those who are fallen down in the dust by our words. We can use our words in order to help others in their lives. To those who are suffering, we can bring words of comfort and understanding. To those who are struggling, and there are so many, we can bring words of reassurance and support. For those who have low self-esteem, of which there are many, we can bring words of affirmation and edification. To those who have been through heartache, we can bring words of hope and of healing. We can use our words in order to bless.